Hey, welcome to the Young, Dumb, and In Love podcast, where we talk about building stronger and healthier marriages. I'm Julian.
And I'm Brittany, and we want to thank you for being a part of the conversation.
Hey, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review so that we can get more connected with you.
Welcome back to Young, Dumb, and In Love. We are so excited for you to join us today. Merry Christmas. We are those November 1st people that some people can't stand. Other people are for it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Last night on our way home from practice, me and Gabby, we listened to Pentatonic's Christmas.
Oh, yeah. She loves it.
Went hard. And then my song came on. It was the one from Sister Act. Joyful, joyful Lord. That one.
I've never seen Sister Act.
You've never seen Sister Act?
Nope.
You know what we're doing tonight? We're watching Sister Act. Your life is about to be changed.
Anyway, it's been a minute. I feel like we say that a lot, so we're just going to go right over it. And it's been a second. We, building businesses from home.
Yep.
Both of us that aren't the podcast.
Yeah.
Or the marriage
for sure.
ministry.
We need to pay our bills. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So October was just like a crazy, crazy month.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think if we both look back, I would say neither one of us navigated it super well.
Yeah.
And so we thought, you know what? Let's just be really honest and vulnerable, because that's the whole heart of this podcast, and be like, hey, you know what? Like, October was a really good what not to do month.
Yeah, that's true.
And sometimes I think the best lessons are taught from not what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. We basically were looking at each other one day and we're like, I don't even like you anymore.
Okay.
Who are you?
That's pretty true.
Obviously, it's dramatic, but definitely had a moment where we're like, what is happening?
Month, because October we had guests multiple times.
Which we love. We love all of our guests.
Totally. But our littlest had her birthday, and then we took them on a trip, and then we came home, and you've started a new business. Oh my gosh, now our other dog is barking. Julian started another business because we are, entrepreneurs.
Yep.
So we both have different businesses that we run. And so Julian partnered with a friend. They have now started a new business. So it's just been busy.
It has been.
And I think it's so I think a lot of marriages probably right now, as we all look kind of like how the world is a little turbulent right now. I think there's a lot of things going on. People having to navigate tough things.
Yeah, that's so true.
So we're like, let's just talk a little bit about how we could have navigated better, and then going forward, things that we've said. Because don't you think that even the best marriages, because I would say we have a really amazing marriage.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, that's why we do this. We love each other. We're happy together. We have usually 9 out of 10 times we have a really good flow going. We do.
Yep.
And then every once in a while you just hit this weird, this is not.
Yeah. What is happening?
It's like a weird tension.
Yep. Well, because you're getting the tension. You're right. That word is perfect. There's tension on all sides. You're getting pulled left, right, forward, backwards, up, down, swirl, whatever it is.
And I think a lot of times the thing that struggles in is the marriage, because it seems like it's the thing that can kind of get
pushed back.
It's not always the squeaky wheel. The kids are very squeaky.
Oh my goodness.
The dogs, obviously.
Squeaky.
Work, clients, people, and you love that stuff. And
bills.
You serve, and your bills.
You pay your bills, and all of a sudden you have more bills, and you're like, what the heck is happening?
And then school, there's a conference. Hey, school's closed for this week, and then the school's closed that week, and then there's no school that day, and you're just like, why do we send our kids to school?
What's the point of going to school then?
But I think it's your marriage oftentimes, because it's there, it's the thing that sometimes just gets neglected because it's there.
So
and
true.
we just think it's still going to be there.
Yeah.
So we thought, you know what, let's just talk about what we did wrong.
Yeah.
Or how we wish, hey, if we would have gone back, this is really what we should have done, because these are our values. And maybe we kind of just didn't slay in the month of October.
Well, let's just think about it. So
we did not go on a date.
0 dates, not one date in October. And I'm trying to think, well, that's not completely true.
Oh, we went on a date in Disneyland.
We were in Disneyland.
Okay, that's
And
fair.
we pawned our kids off to the family, and we went on a really nice date.
We did.
And it was awesome.
Okay, you're right.
It was awesome. Okay.
I feel like it was when we came home from our trip that it was just
for
like,
sure.
I think it's because we had visitors and then we were gone a week.
Yep.
And our kids, that was 2 weeks off school.
2 weeks off school.
So
didn't
it's like,
help.
I think one is like making sure you are prioritizing the date night, because we haven't always been really good at that.
Yeah.
And I'm like a super duper homebody.
Oh my gosh. And I'm
so
such
my
a party
go-to
animal.
when things are super overwhelming and when we've had a lot of social events.
Yeah.
I just want to stay home.
You're just done.
I'm like, I just want to put on my jammies. I want to stay home. Like, leave me alone. Right?
Yeah. And I'm like, so what are we doing next?
Let's go on a date. And I'm like,
let's go somewhere.
I don't want to go on a date. And it's not that I don't want to go on a date. It's I don't want to like leave the house.
You don't want to get ready.
I don't want to get ready. Oh my gosh, ladies.
You don't want to.
Seriously, I'm like, can we go on a date
Okay.
and I don't have to put makeup on or do my hair and I can wear sweats? I guess a movie, I could do that.
And does anybody else struggle with this? But for some reason, Brittany's always like, oh man, like my kids are so crazy. Like we should go on a date and be alone. And then we go on a date and we're alone. And then all of a sudden she's like, I just miss my kids. I just want to be around them. I'm like, girlfriend,
I mean, I
get
think
your life together.
A lot of parents, yes, I know. I do need to get
because
my
I'm
life
like,
together.
woo!
Well, yeah. Mom guilt can be a real thing. But so anyway, just really prioritizing those date nights, no matter what. And really, like, we are striving to be better at it.
So true.
And it's like we'll get in such a good rhythm, and then we're like, where's our
life.
date nights? Life, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then
and that's it. That's a great excuse for not going on dates.
Absolutely.
It's saying, well, life is just hard. We just got so much going on.
Yeah.
We don't have money. Blah blah blah. Like you don't need money to go on a date. You don't need.
I would say too, the thing that makes it's a little different is we're both home all the time.
Yeah.
So we do spend time together.
We spend literally our office is right here. I sit right there. She sits right there. That's where we work all day long.
There's so much stuff right there.
Yeah.
Like in this,
I won't even show you what my office
looks
looks
dining
like.
room.
It's a dining room, also / office.
It's this huge table, and half of it is covered in books and computers and pens and planners and
microphones, cameras,
microphones, lights. I mean, honestly, as I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I think sometimes it's like, it's not just like, you have to sometimes have that really intentional time.
You do.
One thing I would say we did well is we walk a lot together.
Oh, yes.
Those
morning
are nice.
Walks.
And our friends that we have recorded with before, the walk and talks. And I always think about that. We walk and talk, you know? And so those are really great. I wouldn't say those are necessarily like date nights, but they are good times.
They're moments that
are good,
connect,
that really are helpful. And I talk like the whole time.
Yeah, it's true. I listen a lot.
And sometimes I'll say, like, I mean, yesterday, what did I say? I said, okay, now we're going to just talk about me. And
She did.
I said, like, we were talking about Young, Dumb, and in Love and just some really cool things we have, like, opportunity to do. And what's going to come in 2023 as we're kind of planning for, you know, Young, Dumb, and in Love and the podcast.
Now we're going to talk about.
And then I said, okay, now like Young, Dumb, and Love's going to go over here for just a second. And now we're going to talk about me and my like business and what I need you to do for me.
Let's talk about me. Let's talk about
Julian's in marketing and does, you know, a bunch of stuff like that. And like, I'm like marketing. Sometimes I feel like illiterate. And so I'm like, okay, now it's my consultation moment where you get to give me a consult on the things I should and shouldn't be doing.
Oh, yeah. Well, earlier she was filming too, and she was saying stuff, and then like in between shots, I'd be like, hey so...
I'm like, it's already hard enough to put yourself on camera.
You can totally ignore me. Don't even pay attention.
No, it's fine. I appreciate it because here's the thing. And you can... correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm like sensitive, but I also do like the feedback.
It's true.
As long as you do it in a loving way, which you're good at.
Which I've had to learn.
Want the feedback because I do want to be better.
Yeah.
I just don't want you to be like, ooh, that was bad. I want you to be like, okay, so here's my feedback, which is really how you should communicate anyway.
You should. It's called the sandwich.
Yes. It's like nice, a little bit of,
here's
and then
what
nice
you should
again.
fix. And
like
then
an
nice
Oreo.
Again. But you did so great.
But you did so good and you look amazing.
But
yeah, just prioritizing date nights and that time, that one-on-one time.
Well, and the second thing beyond date nights is I think it's super easy to get into a funk when you assuming things about the other.
I feel like he's gonna like totally. Where is this going?
So it's not going anywhere. I'm not attacking you. I'm just being
real. I
real.
feel like this sweater is like.
Listen, your sweater is very good. But listen, assuming things about your spouse is like a ticket to fighting. Okay, it's always better to look at your spouse in the eyes and say, hey, so I'm kind of getting this vibe. This is how I'm feeling. is this true or am I crazy? And I would rather, and I always say that,
You're
is
crazy.
this true or am I crazy? If
It's
she says
true.
I'm crazy, and I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah.
If she says, it's kind of true, and I'm like, okay, so how can we fix that? If you don't have that conversation, you're just going to assume that something is happening. Like, for instance, literally this month, it was tough. It was a tough month. This month, I had the assumption, I was like, she just doesn't even like me anymore. I am convinced that my wife doesn't even like me at all anymore. Now, were there moments or things that maybe I did that I probably deserved for her to look at me with those mean eyes? Probably, yes. But I just assumed without having the conversation or talking. And so what happened is what it does is it draws, or it puts a drives. Thank
like
you.
A wedge.
It drives a wedge in between you two.
Yeah.
And it's like an unnecessary wedge. It's a wedge that is caused by assumption rather than truth. And if you can just get down to the truth, the assumptions will never grow into something that it shouldn't be.
Right.
And that's what happened to us this month. I assumed things. And, a lot of times, which I put off the vibes, she assumes a lot of things about me too.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, why? That's not true at all. Like, that's not my heart. And if you would have just asked me, like, that's the conversation we have to have with each other constantly, is being honest, having real conversations, and don't assume things about each other.
Yeah. Well, and like you just said, like driving a wedge between the two of you, like, I think it's such a, like, it's not in the physical, but in like the spiritual. And it's like, it is this tension. And isn't that so like the enemy wants to drive a wedge in your marriage? So there's like this invisible tension where it's like, and even if he's done doing something, I'm just annoyed, period. And there's just like this tension that gets built, and if you don't talk about it and you don't really just try to break that down, it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And the only place for it to go is to crumble or to explode or whatever you want to,
And it's so easy to get there.
And it's so many things. Cause like a lot of times, the state of like the world in general, no matter what you believe or what you feel, financial crisis or financial things going on or whatever. It's like, if you don't have a conversation with your spouse, it's like, there's just this, I don't know, it just feels weird, and also too, as a wife, it's like, okay, I've come a long way in this sense, is like, I know that my husband has a lot of pride in taking care of our family. So there's like certain conversations that I'm like, ooh, I don't want to hurt your feelings. So like, how do you approach it? Like the nice way. But sometimes I think you just have to say like, hey, first know my heart. Like you said, the sandwich, know my heart. I love you. I see how hard you work. I know what you're doing is, here are some here are some things that I'm wondering or what's going on in my mind, And so that's important, So one, obviously we talked about like being consistent with that date night, which we did not do well, very well. And then two, obviously having those conversations, and our dogs are literally making the weirdest noises today. It's like, they're like, attention.
Yeah. They are attention seekers.
They really are. And knowing that like marriage is going to have these little hiccups, like not hiccups, like, okay, so there was never a moment in October that I was like, I don't want to be with Julian or we're not going to be married. No, we're going to be married. We're a team. But sometimes the team needs a team huddle and come together and say, oh, I know.
Sports analogy. I see you. Okay.
Contrary to popular belief, maybe I am actually quite the,
she was I
actually really like sports and
hockey,
played sports.
to be exact.
Or like watching hockey. I didn't play hockey, for the record.
When we go to a hockey game, though, the trash talking begins. You and Elsie.
Our 4-year-old. But I think it's like you need to huddle and come together and be like, hey, you know what? These plays that we usually do are just kind of not working right now.
Yeah.
Like we need to call an audible or a shift or whatever it is. And that's okay.
Yeah, so true.
And it's like you can't put new wine into old wineskins. And I think it's like marriage sometimes needs a little huddle of like, hey, this is how we've always kind of done things. But right now it just isn't really feeling like it's like it's not producing any fruit.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and our life has like shifted so much. We went from either working at different places or working at the same place, but like not like together. So where we literally sit face to face, like most of the time, and we share drop-offs and pickups and clean up and this and that, So it's like, sometimes you have to have a huddle and say like, this doesn't feel like it's giving us any wins.
For sure. Yeah.
How can we get some wins in the book?
Yeah.
You know?
So good.
And, you know, so obviously
wins are huge.
Yeah.
And when it comes to wins, here's a great example of how Brittany was able to give me some wins this month. So with my business and what I do, it's very business. We have a very busy business. We have lots of clients,
Yeah.
and they're all asking for different things, and we have to
Yeah.
perform in different ways for different clients, right? And sometimes it's like an all day thing. Like I have to work from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, and that's just the way it is right now because we're building. And she can see the stress inside of my eyes, right? And she's like, he's off. He needs some focus time. Sitting across from me at this table probably isn't the best thing for him right now.
because I'm so lovely.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
because my work is like needs time that's very, very specific to just focus and have no distractions at all, she will be like, hey, you should leave today.
Yeah.
And one of my best places to work is at a coffee shop. I put headphones in, I got my coffee, and I just go. And I don't have to talk to nobody, especially because where we live, I don't really know many people yet. You know, we're working on that. But so it's easy for me to work really hard. So she'll send me. She'll like send me, get out, go, get out. You need to go work and get some work done.
I mean,
and
working
get that
from
stress.
home is hard because it's
so
like,
hard.
okay, you know, you used to go to an office. I mean, it's a blessing too. I love it. I wouldn't change it or trade it. I
the
love
world.
it.
Yeah.
But when you go somewhere, it's like you can kind of compartmentalize. Like, okay,
That's
when
exactly
I'm
it.
here from 9 to 5, I am working.
That's exactly
When I
it.
go home, I am momming and cleaning and doing laundry. I have this like habit of like trying to mold it all together. And sometimes I'm like, oh, what work did I get done today? Well, no, but I did like 10 loads of laundry, vacuumed, scrubbed the toilets. Okay, well, you know, so I know that about me. So I will be like, you should just like go.
Yeah.
And then I'm not frustrated when I'm like, oh, there's a lot of dog poop in the backyard and Julian didn't pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, he's working. But anyway, yes.
So
seeing
true.
what they need. Because I
seeing
think
what they need.
too, part of like we always talk about marriage, it's this partnership that sometimes means like not all the touchy-feely, but like, hey, what do you need like practically? Like
Exactly.
practically, you're
Exactly.
building a business right now. And because I'm your wife and I'm your helpmate and I'm the person that is here to stand next to you and help champion you, what do you need to be able to do that right now? And it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
You know, different times and different seasons. And
Yep. Well, and that's where the whole marriage is servitude thing comes in.
Oh, absolutely.
Like marriage truly comes down and boils down to being having servitude towards each other.
Yeah.
And when she sees the need that I have and she fulfills it, and I do the same thing for her, and we're serving each other constantly, and we're always giving to each other while also taking from each other.
Yeah.
What we're doing is we're putting deposits in and we're taking withdrawals, it's just like a bank account. You have to treat it like that because now you don't want to be transactional with your spouse.
Right.
You don't want it to be like that.
Yeah.
But, well, I did this and why aren't you doing anything for me? Like, that's not going to work. I'm just telling you right now, that's not really going to work at all. But if you both take on the attitude of servitude and you begin to serve each other every single day and you see a need and you fill it. I see the dog poop in the back and I pick it up, like stuff like that. Whatever it is, you see the need and you fill it and you provide that opportunity for each other. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen is there's just going to be a natural flow that happens and both of your tanks are being filled, and as they're being emptied and they're going to be filled because you're constantly doing it for each other. Yeah. And what that does is it promotes wins in your marriage, and it helps you not get to the place where you're bitter and you're mad and you're sad and you don't feel connected to your spouse. Like that happens because you guys aren't doing things for each other every single day and taking care of each other's needs. Mm-hmm. And now your needs might be different. Like my needs are way different from Brittany's and Brittany's are way different from mine. Like mine, I'm probably a little bit more of like I need physical needs, and I love gifts and I love going and doing things that are fun, and I like to travel and I like to experience things. Like for me, that's huge, and that's a very big deal for her, like very big.
What do you mean, to let you do those things?
No, like for you to do those things with me sometimes, like to
yeah,
go travel and do things. Like you're a
man,
homebody, like you like to be home, and I'm like, so what are we doing next? Like where are we going? And so
to bed.
So what she does is now it's a balance, but she definitely balances her life to provide those needs for me.
Right.
And vice versa. When we're here, like it's so easy to be home and be distracted by whatever, your kids, your dogs, your responsibilities, all that kind of stuff. And when we're here, for her, quality time is such a monumental thing. Also, servitude is such a huge
quality
thing.
time, but like quality alone time too. I think
Exactly.
sometimes it's like,
well, that's what I'm
I
saying.
need to be
Like,
told, hey babe, I got the kids. Why don't you go for like a walk, or you work
Exactly.
out, or go read a book outside, or do something by yourself? Because for me, I am filled up by being alone.
and I have to force her to do it though, because she feels a
'Cause
heavy
I feel
responsibility
really
to take care of
guilty
everything.
For
And
sure.
so for me, I look at her and I go, like, when I can see that she's stressed, I'm like, hey, you should go like upstairs, close the door, get a workout done, whatever it is,
Yeah.
go for a walk. Just trying to come up with any reason for her to just get her mind right.
Right.
So that she can be in a good place for me
Yeah.
and for our kids and just for our house, because our house should be a place where we feel safe, right?
Yeah.
It's a place where we feel like we can be ourselves, where we can have honest conversations. But when we're
Yeah.
stressed and we don't feel connected to our spouse, it's not going to be that. It's going to be a place that causes more stress, and it's going to cause you to fight, and it's going to cause you to be in a place where you don't even want to be around that person, but you live with them. So now you're like,
stuck.
I don't know what to do. So
Well, I think it was like we usually do such a good job at that, but for some reason, it just felt like a little bit like
this October,
weird. It was
October
weird.
was hard because we were, like you said, we were being pulled in so many directions.
Right.
And then,
And that's why, though, don't you think that's why it's so imperative, which is to have those like date nights scheduled in firmly, you know what I mean?
100%.
And to have that time of like, hey, no matter what happens, we're going to sit down on this day and we're just going to chat and talk and whatever, and I think, like you said too, making assumptions, like I assumed that Julian maybe didn't realize the way that I felt about something or the way things were going in different situations.
Yeah.
And then I was worried because I'm like, I don't want to hurt his feelings. And so it's like, okay, yeah, this is like a couple who we've been together for a long time and we're usually really good at navigating these things. And then we hit these little like tensions and it's like, hey, but like, how do we navigate this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was going to say just now too, when it comes to that, like the assumption thing is so huge because we see life a lot different from our perspective. My brain interacts with life different than her brain does. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally okay. But she sees every little detail, like for instance, in our house that has to be done. And I just don't see it the way that she does, nor do I think it's a big deal. Like, it doesn't matter to me, like I'm like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'll do it tomorrow or whatever. And she sees it, and then she would get frustrated with me if I don't take care of it. And she's like, well, if you would have, like it's moments like that. Well, if you would have done this, I'm like, I didn't know that needed to be done. I totally would have done it. Like, just ask. And that's where, if we can just communicate, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a real conversation between me and her, because when she will assume that I just didn't do it because I'm lazy or whatever, I'm like, no, I just didn't see it.
I see like everything.
And because you see everything, just tell me what you need. Like, I'm I feel like I'm such a servant. So if you need something done that's going to be helpful to you, just tell me. And what am I going to do? I'm the type who doesn't wait till tomorrow. I'm like,
I'm going to go right now.
I'll do it right now.
Sometimes though, I'm like, really? That's been sitting there forever. And then all of a sudden he's gone. I'm like, where'd he go? Oh, he went to go fix that. And I'm like, right now?
Yeah.
But it is because we are so different.
But for instance, like our toilet,
oh my gosh.
Okay,
don't even talk to me about that. That toilet, I think, is literally cursed or possessed.
We have this downstairs toilet,
is
guest
insane.
bedroom, or it's like the guest bedroom toilet.
You have fixed like every part of it.
I've literally replaced all the parts, did
makes
everything,
weird noises.
took it apart. So I fixed the weird noises part. That's great.
There was some crazy noises coming from that toilet.
It was crazy.
And then water was coming out of it.
And then
we couldn't figure out
the floor
from
was
where.
getting wet, and I literally take the whole thing apart, replace parts,
figure out
put new
why
everything.
Is the ground wet?
I flushed it a million times.
Doesn't leak.
Nothing leaks. And all of a sudden my daughter comes out and she's like, hey, like the floor's super wet. And all of a sudden.
Also, like her pants wet.
And I'm like, okay,
what is
weird.
happening?
It only leaks when she goes to the bathroom. And so we start just like thinking about it, and we watch her and we're like, hey, what do you do? And apparently she leans back on the tank a little bit and you can't really lean back on this tank for some reason. It's an older toilet. You can't lean back on this tank because what it does is it opens the seal just enough to where water comes out, right?
Like
that's fine. Anyways, I'm telling the
Very
story.
detailed
Let me tell the
toilet
story.
story.
Anyways, we figured out that it's her because of the way she leans back. So we're like, you can't lean back. It hasn't leaked ever since then.
So
But
if
that
you
was
come
such
over,
a
don't lean back on our toilet because it might leak.
But it was one of those things where like it was so frustrating. It was causing headache. I didn't know what to do. I kind of almost was like giving up on it.
I'm just going to get a new
toilet. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, here we are. We're fixed. But
Fixed
if
toilet.
I would have just examined it a little bit differently, I didn't push on the tank.
If you would've leaned back
Yeah, if I would have
on the
leaned
toilet.
back, like something so simple.
Yeah.
But I say that sometimes your marriage can be like a leaky toilet. You have no idea what's happening, and there's water going everywhere, and you're like, I feel like we fixed everything. We went to counseling, and we got a new flusher. We got a new this. We got a new that. Everything's been replaced. But for some reason, there's something in our life that is causing us to have this leak in our marriage. And typically, it's something as simple as leaning back too far. If you lean back too far in a certain area, what's going to happen is the water is going to come out and you're not going to see where it came from. You're like, where did that come from? That's where communication comes into play all the way. If we would have just communicated with our daughter, like, hey, what are you doing? We would have figured it out a long time ago.
Yeah.
But instead, we were like, fixing everything else that didn't need to be fixed, and it was just the one thing.
Well, now the toilet's like brand new.
It pretty much is. Everything's replaced
I
on
think
it.
too, what I like, because, okay, so we've talked about like making sure you're not making assumptions of how your spouse is feeling, and then really prioritizing those like date nights and those one-on-one times. And then something I think for us that we do, and we've talked about it so many times on this podcast, is if we did not have solid values in our marriage,
So true.
solid things that are non-negotiable, months like October that had a lot of stressors and a lot of things. I mean, from, like I said, the no school, the different businesses, starting new ventures, sick. I forgot.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We came home.
I'm still dealing with it.
Came home from Disneyland, which is awesome, such a blessing. We love to be able to go. Julian and Elsie are both sick. Elsie gets better, literally gets sick right away again.
Yeah,
and
like
we're
a
just
week
like,
later.
So I think it's just like, sometimes it's not even that person is doing anything wrong. Life is stressful sometimes.
Yeah.
Life is stressful sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is like to live life.
Yeah.
And you're just going to have months like that. And the thing is having those values that we can come back to, that no matter what, I love Julian.
Yeah, so
That
true.
we are not going to get divorced. Not even that was on the table in October, for the record. But, it's like those
Good.
those values that bring you back, communication and being honest with each other and quality time and praying for each other and knowing that like, if he seems like he's struggling, it probably isn't. I can be a cheerleader, and I think that's the thing is I did see like, man, he is just grinding, with he has businesses and he's making a lot of contacts. And it's not that he's trying not to do the things that I want him to do. It's that he's so stinking busy. And if he didn't work from home and he was just like, hey babe, I'm going to be a couple hours late, I'd be like, okay. But because I see him, I'm like, oh, spend time with me or, do this.
Yeah.
Because
you love quality time.
Anyway, so it's like making sure you have those values, that mission of your marriage, like is, what are you making sure that you don't lose sight of no matter what?
So
like,
true.
That no matter what, even when he's driving me absolutely bonkers, I have to remember I love this man and I chose him and I'm going to continue to choose him even on the days where
I suck.
he's annoying me. And I think that's okay. But I think that what happens is because we want to not feel that way, we just kind of keep pushing it aside.
Yeah.
No. And then it just, becomes more than just a squeaky wheel. It's a wheel that's falling off and, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, things that can be stressful, like kids.
Yeah, kids are very stressful for sure. And obviously we love our kids.
Of course, it's not that, but it's just
hard
another thing that
being-
does take attention.
It is hard being a parent.
Yeah.
It takes all your attention.
Well, and when you're navigating things with your kids, a lot of times it can be like, okay, we're navigating this tough thing, or we're helping our kids through this tough thing, or like with a sick kid. When Elsie's sick, my whole life revolves around Elsie.
1,000%.
She's little. She needs her mom.
And then we were sick at the same time, so
And,
I'm not even able to help with
And so
anything
then
else.
he's sick and she's
And when I
sick,
get
and so-
sick, like I get sick, you know what I'm saying? She says it's drama, but
No, I I do think you're sick.
Do
I also think there's drama 100%?
Well, we're 2 weeks later and I still have it in my chest.
I can hear these like little like when I walk by. And
Okay.
I'm like, no,
that is not.
That you are doing
that. That is not the truth.
But I love you,
okay.
and I still take care of you,
this
don't
girl.
I? Don't I?
Yeah, you do.
Even
this
though
girl,
I'm like,
though.
oh my gosh, he's crazy. But
this
anyway,
girl's hilarious.
so I am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But navigating those tough seasons, you can do it well.
Yeah,
you know, and
you can.
And here's the thing. Obviously, this isn't an episode about like really traumatic things happening. This is more just that like everyday light tension. There's going to be traumatic things that are navigating on a whole nother level, which we could, talk about in another podcast. This is more of just that daily life when you just kind of get caught up in the grind of it.
Yeah.
And you look at your spouse and you're like, we haven't dated in this long. We haven't maybe been intimate in this long. And it's longer than you want to admit, but you're
Amen.
like, but I think that it's important to realize like, you got to just look at that, have that conversation and then move forward from it rather than like walk in shame or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we had such a tough month. It's like, no, we had a tough month. We had that conversation. And then like literally the next day we were like, we're going to just,
it was over.
Yeah. And
one tough conversition. It was over.
And it's like, okay, let's see eye to eye. Let's have these tough conversations. And I think sometimes too, and something, that it's important is like, especially when it comes to things that would maybe have like you have a lot of pride in, right?
Yeah.
So like, for example, like providing for your family. Of course,
sure.
you have a lot of pride in that and you should because it is your responsibility and, but it doesn't have to be something you have to shoulder like completely alone. But as the wife, if I'm going to have a conversation about like, okay, what finances are going to come in this month? Like, how are we going to make that like monthly nut? You know how they say like, how are we going to pay these bills or whatever? It's like starting that conversation in a way that's like, hey, like this is strictly business. Like sometimes it really is
so
just
true.
like strictly business.
This isn't an attack on you.
This isn't an attack on you or how hard you're working or
Yeah.
the person you are or the things that you're doing, because all of that I believe in and I think is amazing. This is strictly like that the mortgage doesn't care about your emotions.
It does not care.
It just wants to get paid.
That's it.
And so I think it's so important and it's okay to say like, hey, like you're doing so good. I love you so much. We're working so hard. Like, can I ask you like what are we looking at financially this month? Or, hey, what are some ways that I could help? Or how can I serve you? You know what I mean? And so then it kind of takes that like, yes, there's emotion there, but like, this isn't an attack on you. This is just hey, these are due and they need to be paid.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
And so,
like prefacing that.
Yeah. Well,
would you feel like that makes a difference?
1,000%.
In my delivery.
100%. And
which can be hard.
The thing is like delivery is everything. Like if you preface like, hey, first of all, totally believe in what you're doing and who you are as a man. Like you preface that and then you go, and I just need to know like where are we at? Like what can I do? What can we do different?
Especially if one of you pays the bills.
Yeah.
And the other one, because
you pay the bills and
pay them.
I do everything I can to make the money.
I make money too. Whoa.
You do make.
Yes.
She could has a lot of potential to make more money than me, but the housing market right now, hey, there's still opportunity for you to buy a house if you need to. Anyways, little plug. But listen, the thing is like she approaches it so well that
not all the time.
But you try.
I do try.
Yeah. But the thing is like I have had to learn, and I still have to learn not to be offended by her approaching the question, And before in our past life, not past life, but in our past, we've had steady jobs where we knew exactly how much we'd be making every single month, and we just budgeted off of that. Now it's like, okay, it's going to be different. It might be more this month, less this month. It's just different because we're running our own businesses and it depends on other people, but it mostly depends on me. And so with that, I'm like in a weird place where I've had to learn to go, okay, if I could just communicate up front where we're at.
Yes.
And from the very beginning and just say, hey, I might have to take on some side jobs while we're doing this thing. That's okay. Like she can go, all right, we know that there's going to be some sacrifices.
Well, there's like faithfulness of, God. I mean, honestly, always. It's just like, it's really just an approach thing on anything, not just finances.
1,000%. You're
bumped
okay.
you. If you're struggling maybe in your intimacy or your finances, or I mean, think of other stressors, big stressors, you know what I mean?
Kids,
Parenting, family. Yes. Obviously all
Yep.
that stuff, different beliefs, different ideas, whatever it is. It's like
politics right now, you know, that's a big one.
how you approach the conversation really determines the way the conversation lands, I think,
For sure.
too. You know what I mean? And that's not always easy.
Yeah. Well, and when you do approach these conversations so that you can fix things and keep things from going awry, like you need to remember if you're the one approaching that's your spouse.
Yeah.
That's your team.
For sure.
I think a lot of times we forget that we're on the same team because we have our things that we're dealing with, they have theirs, and it's just like, okay, where are we at? Where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Instead, when you remember that you're a team, and like she said earlier, huddle up. All right, we need to huddle up real quick. And when we huddle up, we might have to throw an audible, but let's look at what's happening. What's defense playing right now? When you have that kind of mentality as a leader in your home, you're going to be able to determine what needs to happen that month, and then you're going to be able to go together hand in hand and go, all right, let's go forward and move forward with this and do this thing and be successful in all that we do. And that's where people drop the ball because they forget they're a team and they separate themselves instead. And now we're sitting in a place where we're against each other. We're on opposing teams when that's not the way that marriage is designed. We're designed to work together with everything that we do.
Well, it talks about how a strand of 3 is not easily broken. But when you are married and you're trying to navigate everything separately, and then you're not really bringing in, you know, the Holy Spirit and asking God to help, like that just creates just chaos, honestly. Just straight up chaos, you know? And for us, it's like, for me, just as we were kind of navigating, like, oh, this just feels weird. It just was weird. It was like, I kind of just prayed and was like, okay, Lord, what areas am I, like, instead of saying, okay, well, Julian's not doing this and Julian's not doing that, and if he would just do this, then I would do that. Then I just was like, okay, what areas can I just be a light and that I can just be loving? Because there wasn't every day that I felt like that. And just how can I be loving? How can I be light? How can I be an encourager? Because honestly, my negative attitude or adding any stress is not going to be helpful. And sometimes it's like realigning myself, like, okay, what is going on with me? And then kind of approaching it from that makes it so much healthier. So then I'm like, okay, these are the ways that maybe like I got a little off course. And so, you know, maybe I started falling into old patterns of like, one of the big stressors I used to have a lot was finances. And the Lord has always taken care of us. But when we were younger, especially, and things would be like, I mean, tight, like way, different than now, but like just crazy. The stories we could tell about like all of a sudden someone calling me and like, hey, we just have this feeling that we should bless you with this much money. And we would have like a car that wasn't working and we would be like, this is literally insane. But I have to recognize, like, am I falling into old patterns because things feel uncomfortable? And so then I'm operating out of fear of finances, when it's like, no, everything's fine. You're just operating out of fear because you're uncomfortable. So you're going back to what you used to do. And when I go back and go, okay, actually that's me. So, okay, Lord, like help me to realign my thoughts, my feelings, and then I approach it from a whole new perspective of like, oh, actually everything's fine. I'm just overreacting before there's anything to overreact about. Then that helps.
It's like past trauma,
absolutely.
How past trauma messes you up.
Well, and I think a lot of times it's like, and this is I feel like we're like untangling so many different things, but past trauma sometimes feels like a nice cozy blanket. And unfortunately, instead of us just deciding like, no, I'm not going to get back under this, I'm not going to fall into this, we just kind of go, okay, well, this is familiar. It may not be good and I don't actually like it, but it's familiar. And when I operate out of these old familiar patterns that are not healthy, the person I am sucks. But I have to like realign, And so a lot of what I felt last month, especially, was really my own old personal traumas and issues that I've dealt with. Even just like navigating some mental health stuff and navigating some medication stuff that was kind of off and on, just different things that, we talk about openly on the podcast, mental health and my struggles with mental health and our journey and all that. When I really sat in that for a moment and thought, okay, where am I like operating not properly here?
For sure.
then it helped me kind of come back in alignment.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe the whole month was actually, now that I'm unpacking all this in front of all of you, the whole month was me. It's me. Hi.
No.
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. At tea. I don't even know any of the other words. Then I think it's like at tea time. I literally.
Coffee time. Every day it's me.
I'm dancing so embarrassingly right now.
She got that white girl dance going on.
I do. Unashamed, guys. Unapologetically. But I think that's the thing is, I do have past traumas that I easily fall into, and I do really good for a really long time. And then sometimes it just
1,000%.
Hi.
And let's be honest, you're not alone. I have things that I've dealt with.
And I think that it was a collide.
It was a collide
of October.
I had my own.
And really, as
you
we're
had yours.
even talking about this right now, and that's what I love about this. And you know, you're welcome. You get this real life experience right out. Like it's like two cars that were just like kind of going and then just kind of collided, and they were just past trauma. You know, it's like we just kind of collided these two. You know, gosh, wow, my brain is starting to really unpack a lot of things. You know,
Unpack
but just like with, you know, Julian's had a lot of really unfortunate things happen. A lot of like disappointing leadership, I would say. Let's just say it like that without being, you know, and a lot of disappointing leadership, a lot of things that did not go the way that people said that they would go, a lot of over-promising, way underproducing. And then obviously my background with like mental health and just, you know, fear and feeling insecure.
Security.
And that's the thing is and a lot of women out there are going to understand this. My deepest desire is just to feel safe and secure.
Yeah.
Like whatever that looks like. I want to be secure and safe financially, physically, mentally. And so when I start to feel any of that feel a little off kilter, I just panic. And so that's like what I said, realigning. Like when we're not aligning ourselves with the word of God and really taking those things before the Lord and saying like, hey, feels like a struggle, then it's hard.
Yeah.
And so like for you, like fear of failure or fear of being let down or not being able to provide, when those things start to whisper in your ear again, you become a whole different
different person.
Don't you think?
Absolutely. 100%.
And so then we're both not our best selves. And so then it's like, okay, great. Well, who's going to pick this mess up? Because neither one of us is doing very well.
Gabby.
But, well, and let's be honest. That's the other thing. When you're navigating a tough season and you have kids, what do you try to do? You want to protect them from seeing that. So then you're like, I don't want to say fake, but you almost feel like you're being kind of fake when your kids are with you. Like, yay, everything's good. And we do this thing where we talk about like not every night, most nights at dinner. What was the best part of your day? This was a good part. And then what was like your kind of your strikeout of the day, something you didn't like. So then it was like, okay, we're going through the motions because we have to be good parents. But then we're like looking at each other like side eye, like
side-eyeing each other.
Like you. Don't even touch my leg. Like, are you trying to footsie me right now? Because
I always try to footsie.
I am not even touching you.
I for sure try to footsie. I'm
You're trying to
right
kiss
now.
me? Ew. But am I right though? Like
100%.
Your kids are around. You want to protect your kids because your kids do not need to see your drama. They can see you navigate things in a healthy way.
Yep.
But like your drama and your unnecessary, no.
Yeah.
They need to be, you need to show them healthy
They
and loving.
see and hear
everything. Oh my gosh. I swear. We will whisper. The tiniest whisper.
From far away.
And Gabby will be like, what did you say? I think I heard you. Why did you say that? And I'm like, we cannot literally say anything. Well, Julian is okay.
I'm always having
Julian's a hot mess though.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
Parents. Code. Literally this morning. I am talking about someone's story that they had told me. I say, yeah, they tried to KISS this person. Okay. Not in front of Gabby. Gabby can spell. She's literally in middle school. Elsie cannot spell. Maybe she can though. I mean, it's a pretty easy word. And her favorite song is Kiss the Girl. So, I mean, let's be honest. Like, sha-la-la-la-la-la. Yeah, you know. So I'm like, yeah, they tried to KISS. And Julian goes, try to kiss her? And I'm like, do you not speak parent? Like, I literally just spelled the word for you. You do this all the time,
gosh,
though.
I know.
I'm telling you, I don't think you've ever understood the code.
I've never caught on to the code.
Never got the code.
Ever. I'm like,
babe,
why are you making such a big deal? I don't understand. You're
it's
like,
just a kiss. I'm
and
like,
all of a sudden-
and then all of a sudden
and then she
Elsie
responds,
goes, he kissed her? I'm like,
it repeats right away.
I'm like, Julian, your kids are
why?
listening.
Why did she do that? Why did he?
Why
I'm
did
like,
you do
oh my
this? Why did
gosh.
I'm like, babe. So Julian, do not spell in front of him. He will repeat it out
I
loud.
will repeat it. I will spell it for
I will
you.
spell it out. Do you
Yeah.
not know how to say kiss? What's wrong with you?
Hello.
Anyway, yeah. So that is our
It's so
real
real.
life
Yeah.
navigating just.
Ooh.
Are you crying?
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm
Just
crying 'cause it's
navigating a tough month
Yeah.
where no extreme trauma,
No.
but where it just feels like
It was
every day
just
is
off.
mud. You
It
know,
was
you're
just
just like,
off.
oh, this just
We were
doesn't
just treading
feel.
through mud.
Yep.
Yeah. And instead of putting our backs to each other so we don't have to sleep in the mud, we were just looking at each other, treading through it by ourselves.
Yeah.
Little Forrest Gump action right there. I don't know if you noticed, but
But it's amazing too, though. I think what's really cool about, like, obviously there's things and you grow each day, but when you really come to each other, you say like, hey, can you forgive me? And you just like, you're honest. It's like right away, we can just go to having good.
oh, for sure. Absolutely.
You know, like it's like, okay, we can let that go. We can navigate it as we go. We're still navigating plenty of things.
Oh, all of it.
Our
still.
kids have tons of no school this month. I mean, just like I was saying, but it's like you just learn to navigate it.
You do.
And, you
You
know,
do.
I think it's cool too, because I do feel like every time we navigate like a tough month or tough season or a traumatic thing, it just takes our marriage to like another level.
Oh, for sure.
You know, just another level of, hey, we can navigate that, we can weather that, then really what can't we weather? Not that I'm asking for any more,
We don't need any more.
but it's like you just grow, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the point of
Well,
being married, and
yeah, I
how
was
you
gonna
stay
say,
married
yeah.
is if you don't grow in your marriage, especially, I mean, we will have been married for, it'll be 17 years next year.
Yeah.
And if you don't grow, that's just like boring.
If we were still trying to be that 20 and 18-year-old,
gross.
forget it. Like it wouldn't work.
18-year-old me would
We
bug
have
me.
to we have to
You have to
evolve
grow.
and
You
grow
have to.
with each other
Absolutely.
because our personalities change,
Yeah.
the things we enjoy
Your
change,
goals, your dreams. I mean, all of
now
that.
we're parents, so that changes everything. I mean,
Absolutely.
like if you don't change with each other and grow with each other, you're going to be in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I always tell people, I'm like, well, you're not 18 anymore. Now you're 30. You should probably start to figure out your life. You know, like that's the kind of stuff that we need to help. And we want to help people understand that it takes effort and time and growth. And when you do that, your marriage can be stronger together.
Yeah.
You know, and taking moments and months like we had and really almost like building a monument. This could be our monument. We're putting rocks down to remember what we went through and what was hard for us and how we can navigate it better next time it comes around.
Yeah.
And that's what our goal is that we can always remember and get better.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. But if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. We would love to see more of you. Leave
Absolutely.
a comment. We want to know in any topics that you want us to talk about. We would love to know
Free
more
game.
about that. We will literally talk about pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything.
And, you know, even if we have to take it down on the notch just to be able to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But make sure you subscribe. We would love to hear about you. If you're on just listening to the podcast, we would love for you to leave a review. We would love to hear what you think.
Please be nice.
Leave reviews. And I'll just tell you right now, if you're a troll, I'll troll you right back. Just kidding. Actually, I will. But we love you guys. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate that you are here today. Also, we just hope that we were somewhat of a help to you today to help you navigate when you go through hard times in your life. But until next time, we'll see ya.